Good morning, Springford. This is Mrs. Smith, and we will be going over Grade 6, Chapter 10, Volume and Surface Area, Lesson 2, Volume of Triangular Prisms, Independent Practice pages 751 and 752. Find the volume of each prism, round to the nearest tenth if necessary. So again, we're going to use the formula volume equals area of the base times the height. Now in this case, the area of the base is a triangle. In our last lesson, the base was a rectangle. So instead of using length times width, we need to use 1/2 the base times the height, because that is the formula for area of a triangle. Now I'm going to bring down the rest of the formula. What's important to remember though here is that this portion and this h right here is the height of the triangle. This h right here is the height of the prism. All right, so the volume is going to equal 1/2 times the base of the triangle, which is 7 meters, times the height of the triangle, which is always perpendicular to the base, so that's 6 meters. I'm going to put this in parentheses, times the height of the prism, which is 16 meters. Now I'm going to multiply 1/2 times 7 meters is, I'm actually going to do 1/2 times 6 meters, because I can do that mentally. 3 meters times 7 meters times 16 meters. So volume equals 21 meters squared times 16 meters. So volume equals 336 meters cubed. Question 2. Find the volume of each prism, round to the nearest tenth if necessary. So again, we're going to use the volume equals the area of the base times the height, and our base is a triangle, so we're going to have to use the formula for the area of a triangle, which is 1/2 times the base times the height. I'm going to put that in parentheses. And we're going to bring down the rest of our formula. So volume is going to equal 1/2 times the base of the triangle, and that's 6 meters, times the height of the triangle, and that's indicated by this dashed line, which is perpendicular to the base, which is 5.2 meters. Put that in parentheses, times the height of the prism. Now I have 3 measurements here. I have a 6 meter, 6 meter, and 9 meter. This is the height of the prism, okay? These are just the length of the sides of the triangle, okay? So they're not important right now. So that's 9 meters. So volume equals 1/2 times 6 meters is 3 meters, times 5.2 meters, times 9 meters. So volume equals 3 times 5.2 is 15.6 meters squared, times 9 meters. So volume equals 140.4 meters cubed. Okay, question number 3. Question number 3. We're going to find the volume of this triangular prism. So we have the volume equals the area of the base times the height. Again, we have a triangle as our base. I'm going to outline it for you here. Now, notice how this is a right triangle. That's something to consider here. I'm going to show you right here. This is, oh gosh, that was a terrible, terrible drawing. This is a right triangle. This means I'm going to change my color because I drew such a bad line. This line right here is going to be the height. And this will be the base. Okay, so that's the blue line is going to be the height, and then I'm going to make this green line be the base. All right, because remember, the base and the height are perpendicular to one another. All right, so let's set up our problem here. Now, if this blue line is the height, well, how long is it? Well, it happens to be parallel to this line right here, and that line is 7.6. So this line is 7.6 centimeters. All right, so here's our formula. Okay, parentheses here, bring down our problem. And so we have volume equals 1/2 times the base, and 5.7 centimeters is the base, 5.7 centimeters, times the height of the triangle, which we said is 7.6 centimeters, 7.6 centimeters, times the height of the prism. And the height of the prism, I have two choices here. Is 9.5 the height, or is 4.8 the height? Well, 4.8 is the height because it's going to go back. All right, so we have our front triangle, and we're going to push that front triangle back a distance, so that would be the height. So we have times 4.8 centimeters. All right, so volume equals 1/2 times 5.7 centimeters equals 2.85 centimeters times 7.6 centimeters times 4.8 centimeters. Then we have volume equals 21.66 centimeters squared, because I multiplied these two together, times 4.8 centimeters. So volume equals 103.968 centimeters cubed. Now, in our directions, it says to round to the nearest tenth if necessary. So when we round to the nearest tenth, we have to go to the tenths place, which is right here. This means I have to look at the hundredths place. Is the 6? So then, if we round that, we're going to get, so this rounds the 9 up to a 10. So I'm going to change my color here. Okay, so this bumps this up to a 10, but I can't put a 2-digit number here, so I have to carry the 1 over. So this rounds this to 104.0 centimeters cubed. Now you might be asking yourself, why am I keeping the 0 here? Why don't I just write 104? Because the directions say to round to the nearest tenth, and that means you need to go to the tenths place, and in this case there is a 0 there, so you keep the 0. So your answer is 104.0 centimeters cubed. Find the volume of each prism. Round to the nearest tenth if necessary. 4. A wheelchair ramp is in the shape of a triangular prism. It has a base area of 37 4/10 square yards and a height of 5 yards. Find the volume of the ramp. All right, so here is a picture of a wheelchair ramp for you. Now, one thing just to consider when you have a wheelchair ramp, the longer the ramp, the better. You want to have a very, very low incline. if you have a steep incline, believe it or not, it's very difficult to get someone up with a steep incline for a wheelchair ramp. I've had lots of experience with wheelchair ramps. My grandmother used to live with us, and the longer the wheelchair ramp, the better. So anyway, here we have a wheelchair ramp. So I'm going to outline the triangular prism for you. Okay, so this is a triangular prism right here. Okay, and here's the formula. Now, they have told us already that this is the base area. So they've actually given us this number right here. And they said that it's 37.4. So I can write 37.4 yards squared right there. Okay. And they say that it has a height of 5 yards. So I can multiply this times 5 yards. Okay. And that is going to give us the volume. So now we can multiply. So we have volume, and we're going to multiply 37.4 times 5, and we get 187 yards cubed. Now, I actually think this is an interesting question because unless this was made out of cement, you really wouldn't have a solid wheelchair ramp. In fact, most wheelchair ramps are not solid, unless, of course, it's cement. So if you go to like a grocery store or even at school, you will see a cement one, but a lot of them are often wood or metal, in which case they really wouldn't be, a solid form. But if it was solid, it would have 187 cubic yards of whatever material that would be. Question number 5. A triangular prism has a height of 9 inches. The triangular base has a base of 3 inches and a height of 8 inches. Find the volume of the prism. So let's draw a triangular prism. So we draw a triangle, and it's a prism, so that means I'm going to double it. Okay, so I'm going to draw the same triangle twice, or to my best of my ability. Top to top, left to left, right to right. And now we're going to write down the measurements. Okay, so the prism itself has a height of 9 inches. So this is 9 inches. Okay, and then the triangular base has a base of 3 inches, so this is 3 inches, and a height of 8 inches. So my height right here is going to be 8 inches. All right, so that's what that will look like. So here we have our formula. So we have volume equals 1/2 times the base we said was 3 inches, and the height of the triangle is 8 inches, times the height of the prism itself is 9 inches. So volume equals, I'm going to multiply 1/2 times 8 because that's easier. So we have 3 inches times 4 inches times 9 inches. So then I have volume equals 12 inches squared times 9 inches. So the volume equals 108 inches cubed. Question number 6. Find the missing dimension of each triangular prism. Question number 6. So it's volume equals area of the base. In this case, the base is a triangle times the height. So this means we have the formula for the area of a triangle times the height to get our volume. So they tell us here that the volume is 30 feet cubed. So I have 30 feet cubed equals 1/2 times the base of the triangle. So here is my triangle. And 10 feet is the base. So I'm going to multiply that by 10 feet. Now the height of the triangle is going to be perpendicular to the base, so that's going to be right here. And I don't have a measurement for it. Over here I see a parallel line, but it's just marked with X. So I can put an X there if I want to. I'm just going to put H because I like to keep my variables their original value. So I'm going to put that there. And then the height here is actually the height of the prism. So that's 3 feet. 3 feet. Okay, so now we have 30 feet cubed equals 1/2 times 5, sorry, 1/2 times 10, which equals 5 feet times the height times 3 feet. So 30 feet cubed equals 5 times 3 is 15 feet squared times the height. Now we're going to divide by 15, divide by 15. 15 feet squared, 15 feet squared. That cancels each other out, and I have H equals 15 can divide 30 2 times, and feet divides feet cubed once with 1 left over, so that's feet left over. So the answer is 2 feet. Number 7. Find the missing dimension of each triangular prism. So we have volume equals area of the base times the height. Our base happens to be a triangle, so the area of a triangle is 1/2 times the base times the height. And then we're going to multiply by the height again for the prism. All right. So the volume they gave us is 390 inches cubed equals 1/2 times the base of the triangle. So here's our triangle. And the base of the triangle is 6.5 inches. 6.5 inches times the height of the triangle, and they wrote X there because they don't know, so H, times the height of the prism, which is 15 inches. Okay, so we have 390 inches cubed equals 1/2 times 6.5 inches equals 3.25 inches times the height times 15 inches. So 390 inches cubed equals, I'm going to multiply 3.25 times 15, and I get 48.75 inches squared times the height. Now I'm going to divide both sides by 48.75 inches squared. 48.75 inches squared. All right, this cancels each other out on the right, which leaves me H. And then 390 divided by 48.75 actually equals 8. And I'm just going to review this. Inches cubed over inches squared equals inches times inches times inches, over inches times inches. So they cross out, and that just leaves you with 1 inch left over. So the height is 8 inches. Question number 8. Find the missing dimension of each triangular prism. Volume equals the area of the base. In this case, we have a triangle times the height. So we're going to use the area of a triangle times the height of the prism, and that will give us the volume of the prism. So they have told us that the volume is 98 meters cubed. So we have 98 meters cubed equals 1/2 times the base of the triangle. So here is our triangle. The base of our triangle is 9.8 meters. 9.8 meters times the height of our triangle, which is 5 meters, times the height of our prism, and that's right here. All right, so we have 98 meters cubed equals 1/2 of 9.8 is 4.9 meters times 5 meters times h. So 98 meters cubed equals 4.9 times 5 is 24.5 meters squared times h. Then we're going to divide both sides by 24.5 meters squared. This cancels out on the right, which leaves us h. And if you divide 98 by 24.5, you're actually going to get 4. And then meters cubed over meters squared leaves you with just meters. So x, or the height of the prism, is 4 meters. Question number 9. Mr. Stanford's greenhouse has the dimensions shown. The volume of the greenhouse is 90 cubic yards. Find the missing dimension of the greenhouse. So here we have our formula. We know that the greenhouse is 90 cubic yards, so I'm going to write 90 yards cubed equals 1/2 times the base of the triangle, and this is the base of the triangle, which is 6 yards, times the height of the triangle, which is indicated with this perpendicular dashed line, which is 3 yards. And we are missing the actual height of the prism, and that's what we're solving for. So we have 90 yards cubed equals 1/2 of 6 is 3 yards times 3 yards times the height. So 90 yards cubed equals 9 yards squared times the height. Now we're going to divide by 9 yards squared, divide by 9 yards squared. That cancels each other out, and h equals 10 yards. And again, yards cubed over yards squared equals yards times yards times yards over yards times yards, and that cancels each other out like this, and you have 1 left over. So the answer for the height is 10 yards. Question number 10. Darcy built the dollhouse shown. A, what is the volume of the first floor? B, what is the volume of the attic space? All right, so for the volume of the first floor is actually a rectangular prism. Okay, so this is a rectangular prism right here. So we are going to use, for the area of the base, length times width. So volume is going to equal, the length is 45 inches, times the width, which is 20 inches, and the height is 10 inches. So the volume is going to equal 45 inches times 200 inches squared, and the volume of the first floor equals 9,000 inches cubed. Question B, what is the volume of the attic space? Now the attic is a triangular prism, so we're going to use the area of a triangle for the area of the base. So volume will equal 1/2 the base of the triangle, which is right here, which is 20 inches. The height of the triangle, which is indicated by this dashed line right here, and it's perpendicular to the base, and it's 8 inches. Times the height of the prism. So that's going this way, okay? And that's 45 inches. So volume equals 1/2 of 20 is 10 inches times 8 inches times 45 inches. So volume equals 80 inches squared times 45 inches. So volume equals 3,600 inches cubed. Now, one question they did not ask, which I thought maybe they would ask, is what's the volume of the entire house? And if you added both of those together because you were curious, like I'm curious, it would be 12,600 inches cubed. Question 11. Find the error. Amanda is finding the volume of the triangular prism. Find her mistake and correct it. Well, right here, we can see her mistake right where she started off. Right here is the right formula, but her formula for the area of the base. Okay, think about that. This is a triangle, so she needs to do 1/2 times the base times the height. So 1/2, the base of the triangle is 2, and the height of the triangle is 6. So 1/2 times 12 is 6. So she didn't cut this in half, okay? To find the base area, Amanda should have multiplied by half. The base area of the prism is 6 centimeters squared, not 12 centimeters squared. So the volume of the prism is 42 centimeters cubed. Question 12. Identify repeated reasoning. A rectangular prism and a triangular prism each have a volume of 210 cubic meters. Find possible sets of dimensions for each prism. So I'm going to draw here a rectangular prism. Just to give us a visual. Okay, and then a triangular prism. Again, it doesn't necessarily have to be to scale. It's just something to give us like an idea of what we're, looking for. So the formula for a rectangular prism would look like this. And the formula for a triangular prism would look like this. Now we know that we want it to equal 210 meters cubed. 210 meters cubed. So what could that be here? Well, I have to think of three numbers that I multiply by to get 210. So this could be a guess and check situation. Okay, now one thing I do have to say is I know that 7 times 3 is 21, and then times 10 is 210. So you could have that. That's pretty easy. Meters, meters, meters. Okay? All right, well, there you go. Another combination could be 210 meters cubed. You could have 7 meters times 6 meters times 5 meters. Okay? So now we have to think over here creatively. All right, the same situation. So over here, we want to have, what I would do, I'm trying to think here. I would do probably, okay, so I would probably do 1/2 times 7 times 10 times 6. And the reason I say that is because ultimately I want to get the same measurements here. I want to get 7, 6, and 5, but I have this 1/2. So I'm going to make, like if I do 1/2 times 10, then that will give me 5, okay? So there you go. If I multiply 1/2 times 7 times 10 times 6, that will give me 210. All right, so there you have it. Okay, and then here, let me just explain what they wrote down here. They said that the area of the base is 35 square meters, which is what they have here, because if I multiplied this together, that would be 35 times 6. Okay, so this would be the area of the base is 35 meters squared, and the height is 6 meters. So that's what they're kind of saying right here. Okay. Question 13, persevere with problems. A candy company sells mints in 2 different containers. Which container shown below holds more mints? Justify your answer. All right, so we have a rectangular prism and a triangular prism. So we are going to use 2 different formulas. In the first one, we have volume equals 6 inches times 6 inches times 4 inches. So volume equals 36 inches squared times 4 inches. So the volume equals 144 inches cubed. On the right, we have a triangular prism. So we have volume, I need to find my pen here. Volume equals 1/2 times the base of the triangle, which is 8 inches, right here. The height of the triangle, which is right here, times the height of the prism, I keep getting those words mixed up, sorry everybody, 6 inches. So volume equals 4 inches times 3 inches times 6 inches. So volume equals 12 inches squared times 6 inches. So the volume equals 72 inches cubed. The rectangular prism will hold more mints than the triangular prism. The rectangular prism has a volume of 144 inches cubed, while the triangular prism has a volume of 72 inches cubed. Question 14. Persevere with problems. Explain a method you could use to find the volume of the prism below. Then find the volume of the prism. Now, there are different methods to doing this. I'm going to tell you the method that I would do. All right, so to start off with, I would find the volume of this rectangular prism in the center. Okay, and that's like right here. All right, I'm tracing it. Okay, right there. Okay, so it is a rectangular prism, so that's our formula. And the volume is going to equal the length is, let's say, 8 inches times the width is right here, and that's parallel to this. So we're going to say 4 inches, and the height is right here, 7 inches. So the volume equals 32 inches squared times 7 inches. So the volume equals 224 inches cubed. Now I'm going to erase. Hold on one sec. All right, and now I just want to erase what I drew here to clean this up a little bit. All right, now we have, believe it or not, okay, so this is half of a rectangular prism, and this is the other half over here. Okay, so if we put these two together, we'd actually get a complete triangular prism. I'm sorry, a rectangular prism. So if I went like that, okay, that's terrible, terrible drawing. Okay, but it would, let me see if I can make this better. All right, so I'm going to start over again. So let me see if I draw this straight up, and then over, and then over, yeah, like that. And then this would go straight up. It would be kind of like that. So if I moved this and kind of flipped it over like that, it would be a rectangular prism. So this would be 5 by 7 by 4. 5 by 7 by 4. Okay? All right, so the volume here would be 5 inches by 7 inches by 4 inches. So the volume would equal 35 inches squared times 4 inches. So the volume would equal inches, 140 inches cubed. So now we have to add those together, and we'd have 224 inches cubed plus 140 inches cubed. Now, in the description for the answer, they may have solved this differently because you can do things differently like that. But let's see what they got. Yay, they got the same answer as us. Now they did the same, they may have done it a little differently. I like our way. And there you go. This brings us to the conclusion of our lesson today. Much happiness to you and your family. And this is Mrs. Smith signing off.